Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
This was in a social media post just moments ago. I'm just going to read it directly to you from Matt Gaetz, who, of course, was up on Capitol Hill yesterday meeting with senators toured around by J.D. Vance. This is from Matt Gaetz. Quote, I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. There is no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General.
Yay! One down. I don't know how many to go. I'm going to say 4. Let's go for Hegseth next. Let's do that one. Got to work really hard on that. Not really. Oh my God. All right. So, oh geez. All right. Where do we start? I'll start where we started when Brett came in. Okay. You can ask me all your questions again, Brett, if you remember any of them. Now that I've succinctly and affirmatively answered all your queries about Matt.
Yeah, I thought there was like a quid pro quo, but I had this really
quid pro quo.
Well, like, hey, we won't release the report if you step down now. And I kind of also had this really optimistic view that, hey, maybe it's the Republican senators are sending a message to Trump that we're not going to tolerate these ridiculous appointments, and you got to appoint somebody, that makes sense, that's experienced. And then you broke my heart.
That was a lot there, Brett. That was a lot. What you came in asking me was, did the House withhold the ethics report because they were giving Matt Gaetz a chance to withdraw his name? And I told you very quickly, no, that is not what happened at all. What happened was there was breaking news about a second underage girl. That's number one. But number two, Matt Gaetz was not in the House yesterday. He was in the Senate yesterday because the Senate would have to confirm him. That's the Senate's job, advising consent, right? And he was being led around by J.D. Vance, which, I mean, the two of them, it's like Dancing with the Stars goes super uber gay. I would pay money to watch them do ballroom, wouldn't you? I mean, it's just beautiful. It's a visual that I actually... Okay, so he was bringing... J.D. was bringing Matt Gaetz around to the Senate to tell them, don't worry, we got this, And, they were saying, no, you don't got this. There are enough votes to keep you from being the next Attorney General. We hate you. You've been nasty your entire freaking career. You're a horror show of a person. And no, there's enough votes here to not confirm you. So put yourself through it. Don't put yourself through it. Up to you. We're out. And I can name the people that were a no, okay? It was Mitch McConnell was a no. Could you believe that? Has Mitch McConnell has finally seen something in a Republican he would not tolerate? Because, at first he didn't tolerate the violence on his, workspace, on his office, the Capitol. But then he became okay with it. And we owe all of this to Mitch McConnell. Yes, we do, because Mitch McConnell had a chance to have Donald Trump convicted and removed in the Senate for the violence that was visited on our Capitol. And he refused to convict Donald Trump at the trial for his second impeachment. The House impeaches and the Senate removes. And Mitch McConnell refused to remove. And if he would have, then Donald Trump would not be eligible to have run for president again, and none of us would be here. Okay, so I blame Mitch McConnell, but it's interesting that Matt Gaetz was a bridge too far for old Mitch. I don't know, so he was a no. Remember Mark Wayne Mullen? He used to be a House member. Now he's a senator from Oklahoma. He was a no. He was the guy who told us what Gaetz was doing on the floor, his fellow Republican was doing on the floor of the House, showing him naked girls with hula hoops. I don't know what that is. And then, bragging about his conquests and showing videos of his conquest. And Mark Wayne Mullen was like, grossed by it. He didn't want to see his colleague having the sex. Okay, like, I don't know who does. Unless you work with some really magnificent humans and it's a porn set, I don't think anybody signs up for this. I don't think anybody wants to go to work and, see Bob in the mailroom have sex with, 16-year-old girls. I just don't think that's a thing that anybody would tolerate in their workplace. And so Mark Wayne Mullen was a no because now he's in the Senate. Susan Collins was a no, which is fascinating, and Lisa Murkowski was a no. So there were enough votes not to confirm him. And that should have been enough reason for him to withdraw, but it wasn't. It wasn't. You know why? Because there was this opportunity for, recess appointments. And so he was not in a mood to withdraw until CNN came out today with breaking news. And the breaking news was that the Ethics Committee was told of a second sexual encounter between Matt Gaetz and another 17-year-old girl. And yes, there were witnesses. And so Paula Reed, who was, she's the congressional reporter for CNN, she was like, it's so interesting because we just got off the phone with him like 45 minutes ago to tell him we're breaking this news, because that's what the media does. They call you. I know this. I've been on the receiving end and I've been on the giving end of having to break news and calling people to either say, I'm breaking this story about you. Do you have any comment? This is how it goes. Or having someone call me and say, we're going to press with this story about you. Do you have any comment? Been on both. Okay. So Paula Reed was doing the asking for the comment.
We're hearing that Attorney General nominee, former Congressman Matt Gaetz, has withdrawn his nomination for Attorney General. But Dana, this comes about 45 minutes after we reached out to him about some new reporting that we have. And this new reporting is that there was a second sexual encounter between him and an underage woman at a party in 2017. Now, I have covered the investigation into allegations that the congressman may have had sex with a minor for 4 years now. And Dana, This was the first time that we had learned that the underage woman had testified to a second sexual encounter. Oh. And I learned from my sources, along with our colleague Sarah Ferris, that she had testified to this to the House Ethics Committee.
Okay, so let me correct myself. I misunderstood the breaking news. It's happening very quickly. So the breaking news is not that there was a second girl. No. The breaking news is that the underage girl had sex with him a second time, which makes it so much better. No, it does not. No, it does not. Okay, so CNN called him to ask for comment, and I think this is when he said, all right, I know when I've been licked all over by a 17-year-old girl, and so I will withdraw my name. So here's where we are. Can you say Senator Matt Gaetz? What? Or Representative Matt Gaetz in the next Congress? Or Matt Gaetz needs a gig? Either way, any of those three are all, in play here. They're all possible. They're all really, really dark scenarios for us as a country. To have a guy like this, another pedophile, another Chester the molester, another dude, another guy, another day with another underage. Sometimes it's a boy, sometimes it's a girl, sometimes it's a dead goat. RFK Jr. Just saying, where are these people coming from? Where are they coming from, and how do they all find each other inside of a Trump 47 administration? How? How is this possible? Well, I'll tell you how. Donald Trump, when you actually selected a felon to be president, a rapist who was literally found liable for raping a woman, as your president, this is what you invited. This is what you get. Now, half the country didn't do it, but the other half did.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I mean, why don't we just say Bill Cosby could be the Attorney General of the United States, and Pete Hegseth needs to be replaced. Let's do I don't know, Diddy for Secretary of Defense. Seriously, this is what happened with Hegseth, who don't get confused, okay? Don't get confused. The Doja bags are starting to blend all into one, all of them, with Elon and Ramaswamy and Hegseth and now, Gaetz and, even what's her face, who wants to be the DNI. I just blanked out on, freaky girl's name. What do you mean, which one? Anyway, Hegseth, Hegseth was in Monterey, California, and Hegseth apparently denied through his lawyer, Tim Parlatore, that he did anything untoward with a woman in Monterey when they were at a party out there. Okay, well, now the police report from the incident that happened in Monterey, California, has been made public. Tulsi Gabbard has been made public, okay? And it's really gross. I'm telling you right now, it's gross. It has fluids in it. It has, fluids on a girl's stomach. Yeah. I mean, it's like 22 pages long, and it's really vile. And everybody, in this report, I'll just tell you, the woman who is in this report saying she did not consent to sex with Pete Hegseth, who wants to be our Secretary of Defense. She actually had a rape kit done. She just waited a long time to have it, like 4 days to have a rape kit done. Probably because she had a hangover of a lifetime. She said not only was he like stumbling drunk, not only did they get into a fight at a pool at the hotel where they were staying, where there was this convention, but they got reported, they got called up, security got called up because they were so freaking loud and they were screaming at each other at the pool. And he was hitting on every woman at the party, putting his hands on their legs and blah, blah, blah. And the fight apparently was about his inappropriate behavior towards all the women at this convention that they were at. And there's surveillance camera video footage of the pool encounter, okay, because they were screaming at each other, and the hotel security intervening to, get them to leave the pool area at 1:30 in the morning. And then she says that she goes fuzzy after that. She doesn't remember anything after. She remembers, like little bits and pieces, but she's very sure somebody put something in her drink, okay, and that made her very fuzzy and lose consciousness to the point where she just remembers the next day. And, she apparently 4 days later went to have a rape kit done. Swear to God. And the nurse at the hospital where she went to get the rape kit done called the cops and said, there's a woman here. She's asking for a rape kit. She doesn't want to be named. She wants to be called Jane Doe. And the police actually go and they talk to her, and then they go and they talk to Pete Hegseth. And, of course, Pete Hegseth says he's the victim. He's the victim in all this. She wouldn't leave his room, he says. And so what? She made him have sex with him? She made him have sex with her? It's so ridiculous. His story is so bizarre. But he denies that she says she remembers being physically restrained in that room. She says she remembers that he was blocking the door and he was threatening her and he took her phone. But he says, no, she was the victim. He was the victim. She wouldn't leave my room, and so I had to have sex with her. This is his story, I swear to God. So I'm saying, why don't we just downshift into Harvey Weinstein as the Secretary of Defense, and, we'll get Diddy to be the Attorney General of the United States. Just get it over with. Because these guys are so inappropriate to even be anywhere near positions of power or on television. And where did this Fox News host learn this behavior? Why don't we just call up Bill O and ask him if he's free to be Secretary of Defense? Why don't we just do it? Him and his loofah could just, move right into the Pentagon. Ew, really? Where did they learn this behavior? Where? But here's the report.
Overnight, a police report was released detailing a 2017 sexual assault allegation against Fox host Pete Hegseth. The accuser, referenced as Jane Doe, reported feeling like she'd been drugged and recalls saying no a lot, while in a hotel room with Hegseth, where she says he prevented her from leaving and that he was on top of her. Hegseth told police he was buzzed but not intoxicated, that the encounter was consensual, and that Doe seemed regretful after sex, but he did not elaborate. Hegseth's attorney has said Hegseth was not charged with a crime. The Trump transition team continues to publicly support Hegseth as a nominee.
I hate to tell you, but buzzed rape is the same as drunk rape. We need public service ads about this. Buzzed driving is the same as drunk driving. Well, buzzed raping is the same as drunk raping. We apparently need to teach our men that it's so sad. It's so pathetic. This is so pathetic. And here's the thing. These are not the worst of the worst. And this is what Brett was asking me. Okay, Brett was saying, well, you would think that Donald Trump would have long gamed this, is how you put it, remember? And And I said they did long game this. Now, Donald Trump doesn't long game anything. Donald Trump just can sell anything. That's Donald Trump's gift to the Republican Party or whatever this party is he can sell anything at all. Any disgusting. He could talk you out of your health care. He could talk you out of your Social Security check. He could talk his supporters out of insurance coverage. He could do anything to them, and they will find a way to support it, even if it's costing them their lives, even if it's costing them food, even if it's costing them jobs, even if because it has, and they still defended him. I mean, we were in a manufacturing recession when Donald Trump was president and screaming that the economy was fabulous. It was a lie, but he could sell it, right, to these people. He could sell tariffs on China to farmers who lost their marketplaces in China that they spent 10 years building. He sold it to them, and he gave them checks, and they were fine, and they voted for him again. I mean, and it's about to happen again. They're about to lose an $8 billion market in soybeans and corn because of Donald Trump's ridiculous, tariffs thing, which is the sweetest word he ever heard or whatever it is. So Trump isn't concocting these plans. Trump is just selling them. It's like Stephen Miller and Matt Whitaker. And, remember, these are people that you don't really know. They're the ones that are long gaming this. They're the ones that are saying, let's pick two guys who couldn't possibly pass muster, okay? They will fail miserably. And then we could pick people that people don't even know, guys that you don't even know. Like, I'll just use an example. The name John Eastman. No one knew John Eastman. He was like some lawyer from the Claremont Institute. But John Eastman was the mastermind behind the fake elector scheme, right? But nobody was any the wiser because we never heard of him. We have, however, heard of Pete Hegseth, and we have heard of Matt Gaetz. If they go down in flames, the next guy who you never heard of will seem really respectable.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Their lawyer has been on television the past few days saying that these two women had testified to the House Ethics Committee about being paid for sex with Gaetz. And what this document shows, and we have an unredacted version of the document, we redacted it to make it public so people could see what this actually looks like. But what the unredacted version of it shows is thousands of dollars going from Gaetz to these to at least these two women, including a third who has told authorities that she was paid for sex. Oh, God. Now, what this helps us understand is sort of how much money was going back and forth between Gaetz and these women. The lawyer says that the women would usually be paid between $500 to $1,000 or so for one of their encounters with Gaetz, which would sometimes include, several days together and partying that went on during that. And so it gives us a larger sense here of how much money was going back and forth. The lawyer said ultimately these two women received a total of $10,000 from Gaetz. One $6,000, another $4,000.
Oh my God.
Putting all these facts aside, what this helps to show is what was going on inside of the federal investigation. This shows what federal investigators knew, the ability that they had to see into Gaetz' finances, and how they were able to establish that Gaetz was sending money to these women. And this is important because Gaetz has denied the allegations. He has said that none of this is true, that he never paid for sex. But this document, this Department of Justice document that was used in the investigation of Gaetz shows money going from him to the women.
There's not enough money in the world for just any woman I know. I mean, from all walks of life. There's not enough money in the world for any of the people I know in my life, from Jessica's friends to my friends to relatives to cousins to aunts and uncles, that would be enough to. Why do they all look like Beavis? Why is that? They all look like Beavis. Even the Trump boys, Beavis and Butthead, they look exactly the same. What happens in their head? They go, hey, what if we crushed up some Viagra and then downed it with a couple of Red Bulls and took some to ecstasy and partied for 3 days? Well, you're going to have to hire some girls because, nobody's going to be around you. And Idiot Boy uses Apple Pay and Venmo and PayPal and Cash App. Like that's off the grid or something? Like, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? You know what? They just don't care. They just don't care. So we get caught. So what? Trump's got us. He's got our backs. I could be the Attorney General of the United States with this record. He's a rapist. I mean, of course he would like me. He would feel like he could blackmail me, and that would be great. And I can get right into the age. I'll do whatever he wants me to do. I'll do whatever. I don't care. Same thing with Hegseth. It's like you picked a weekend host from Fox and Friends who was told to stand down from National Guard duty because he was suspected as being a threat from within and was not permitted to guard the inaugural of Joe Biden as the National Guard unit assigned to that duty. He had to be plucked out of that because they felt so insecure about him being part of that detail. Oh my God. And he's going to be what? You nominated him to do Secretary of Defense? Wait a minute, what? And now we find out he was drugging women, or a woman has accused him, put it that way. A woman has accused him of drugging her and taking her back to his hotel room and guarding the door, taking her phone. And all she says she remembers is him taking the phone, guarding the door, and his dog tags in her face. And he's the victim. No, she victimized me. I mean, where do they find these people? Really, these are all sex pests. Even Linda McMahon, who is about to just totally destroy the Department of Education, which is going to force you in the red states to pay for school now, Oh, my God. Because, listen, I will say your property taxes pay for 90% of your public schools. That's the way our local system of education works. Public education is supported by communities. It's local. Your property taxes, 90% of the cost to run your public schools, which is why places where there's a lot of rental units don't have the best public schools, as opposed to fancy houses with high property taxes have wonderful schools. You see how that works. So already it's, not the best system in the world. But now the federal government contributes 14% more to try and help that situation out to schools. Now you take away that 14% because Linda McMahon, who's also named in a bizarre sex case, okay? Just a really strange sex case. This one with boys, okay? This is a case about 12 and 13-year-old ring boys. This is a case about kids who wanted to meet wrestlers who were, under the supervision of a ring guy, and he was apparently having his way with these 12 and 13-year-old boys, and they knew about it, the McMahons did. And now there's a lawsuit naming her and her husband, who's not Ed. Ed's dead. Ed's dead. Now I got his motorcycle. Yeah, no, honestly, how are they finding each other? How is it? And she's going to be in charge of education. I mean, what could go wrong there? So now I just want you to plan accordingly. So, your property taxes are going to go, way up, like by 14% to make up the diff. Because Linda McMahon is going to be, or is going to try to be, the Secretary of Education, and she has promised to dismantle the Department of Education at the behest of one Donald J. Trump, who knows nothing about education. And in fact, you know where they're taking all their cues? This is the sickest thing. You remember when Trump said, Project 2025, never heard of it. I have no idea. All right, so I saw some of their ideas, and they're really, very bizarre, and some of them are abysmal. He actually used the word abysmal, which was written for him by Stephen Miller, because Donald Trump doesn't know that word. And he said he has nothing to do with them. Do you know how many people he has appointed who have written their chapter for Project 2025? Like Homan, who's a vowel movement away from what he wants to be, human. He's not. Homan, a vowel movement away from being a hoe, okay? Is actually, he wrote the whole chapter on deportations. He wrote it, and now he's the border czar. Brendan Carr, who's going to be in charge of the FCC, he wrote his whole chapter on the Federal Communications Commission's job under a Trump administration. I mean, these are the people, and the guy that said we should all suffer, he's
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. We want, when they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down so that the EPA can't do all of the rules against our energy industry because they have no bandwidth financially to do so. We want to put them in trauma. We're trying to build a shadow office of legal counsel so that when a future president says, what legal authorities do I need to shut down the riots, we want to be able to shut down the riots and not have the legal community or the defense community to come in and say that's an inappropriate use of what you're trying to do.
Is it all making sense to you now? Okay, let me tell you who that was, just in case you need your memory refreshed. That is Russ Vought. Why do they all have unpronounceable last names? They look really simple until you try and say them. Like Gaetz. Is it Gaetz? Is it Gaetz? Is it Vought? Is it Vought? Oh, God. All right, so that guy was the subject of an undercover PBS investigation, hence the attack on not-for-profit public television and public broadcasting. They tend to do very decent investigatory journalism, okay? And they tend to be able to expose wrongdoing in government. Now, the Doge bags, the Elons and the Ramaswamis, they're not looking to save you money. They're looking to redirect our money. They're looking to steal your money. They're looking to redirect the money from Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security to them and their rich friends and their donor class, okay? And the way that they want to do it is through chaos and violence. That's what Russ Vought is there saying on that little snippet. He wants to control the legal machinations of the Department of Justice. He wants to control all the prosecutors. That's DOJ. the AG. He wants to control all of the agencies that make sure your water is drinkable, potable, as they say, so that they can dump and they can frack and they can put fracking, liquid into your water supply, and nobody will ever, which is, and that's so interesting because, now you got RFK involved in all. He's another one who has to apologize for, violating women's privacy. Let's put it that way. And he was just asked recently, are you going to have to apologize again for, he goes, well, I'm 70 years old and I've had a very rambunctious life. And probably, yeah, I will have to apologize. I mean, also that Donald Trump can amuse himself as they infight, because one is for clean water and the other one is for, fracking fluid in your water. It's unbelievable. Okay, so Russ Vought, he's just been, his name has been floated, nominated to be the Congressional Budget Office chairman. I don't know, the CBO. Okay, now what's interesting is he was at CBO. He was at CBO under the previous Trump administration. Now he's gone to Project 2025, and he is the author of a good chunk of Project 2025. And we know this because PBS went undercover and exposed him as being the author of Project 2025.
Two undercover reporters posing as donors are about to meet one of the key architects of Project 2025, the radical plan for Trump's second term, in a hotel suite rigged with hidden cameras.
Nice to meet you. Would you like coffee or something? I'd love coffee, yeah. Great.
Meet Russ Vought.
Russell Vought, the former director of the Office of Management and Budget.
He's been called the most dangerous MAGA diehard you've never heard of.
I am opposed to the Department of Education because I think it's the Department of Critical Race Theory.
The Russ Vought were comrades in arms.
Formerly a cabinet member and chief lieutenant in the first Trump admin,
I want to thank Russ for doing an incredible job.
He now runs a group called Center for Renewing America,
an organization that I helped turn into the Death Star that is accomplishing all the debates that you are reading about. I think you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism. You have the largest deportation in history, block funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to be the person who crushes the deep state.
Vought is one of the key authors of the blueprint for a second Trump administration.
Project 2025.
It's an ambitious 920-page blueprint.
Like eliminating the Department of Education.
The mass firings of civil servants.
Banning access to the abortion pill and further restricting abortion rights.
In recent weeks, the plans have become so controversial that Trump has been forced to distance himself.
They're sort of the opposite of the radical left, okay? You have the radical left and you have the radical right. And they come up with this, I don't know what the hell it is, it's Project 25.
Are you ready? I know nothing about Project 25. I haven't seen the document. I don't intend to really see the document.
But behind closed doors, Vought tells us not to take Trump's disavowal seriously.
I expect you to hear 10 more times from the rally, the president, distancing himself from the left's boogeyman of Project 2025.
Yeah. And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
He's running against a brand. He is not running against any people.
Okay.
He is not running against any institutions. It's interesting, he's in fact not even opposing himself to a particular policy. Yeah. He's been at our organization, he's raised money for our organization, he's blessed it from the, I remember walking into our last day in office and told him what I was going to do. So he's very supportive of what we do.
So that's Russ Vought, undercover, captured by two people posing as donors, but they were really journalists. And the entire hotel room, which was absolutely lovely, I must say, that was a really beautiful room, was outfitted with cameras, undercover cameras, like lipstick cameras. I don't know if you know, they were very tiny, and they take decent video. So Russ Vought, he was the CBO, he was the Office of the Congressional Budget Office chair, and he's going back there unless of course, Donald Trump selects him to be the Attorney General of the United States. Wouldn't that be something? Or to be the Secretary of Education, or to be the Secretary of Defense, or to be the DNI, or to be whatever he wants. Now, I will tell you, Brendan Carr, who's a name you don't know, he's going to be the chairman of the FCC, and Brendan Carr wrote the chapter on the media. He wrote the whole thing. Tom Holman, he wrote the whole mass deportation chapter, the border crisis chapter. He's going to be the border czar. Now, why isn't he going to be like the head of DHS? He probably can't get confirmed. He probably can't. There's just too many videos of him hanging out with, like the Rod of Iron people. Remember I told you he went to the Rod of Iron convention. You know the Rod of Iron convention. I mean, it's just so mainstream that who doesn't know about the Rod of Iron convention, where of course Reverend Sung Myung Moon's sons hold this gala, this big weekend of fun where they literally worship assault weapons and wear crowns of bullets. And Holman thought that was a great place to go and, tell them about his plan to deport everybody and their mothers. Truly, everyone and their mothers and their children, and, to stop the family separation policy, which he authored. He is the author of the family separation policy. Not Christian Nielsen. Remember her? Yeah, she's gone. She's a distant memory. But it was Holman, and now Holman is going to come back as the border czar. And instead of separating families, he's going to deport the whole damn family together. Even if the kids are, DACA recipients, even if the kids are, here legally, born legally, no birthright citizenship. Anyway. And then Pete Hoekstra, I don't know if you remember him. He was a House member. He's just been named ambassador to Canada. I guess he's going to do the trade policy because this is what he wrote in, the Project 2025. A tomb, that 900-page screed on defunding the government completely, just literally just taking all the money, just taking it all. Now, the model for this, in case you were wondering, is, and I keep on saying it because you're going to become very aware soon about this, and I just want you to know that it's, completely traceable, okay? It's completely traceable right back to the shock therapy that is being visited upon the country of Argentina by their Javier Milei, their guy, okay? He calls it not narco, anarcho monetary policy, or anarcho-capitalism. It has a name, where they suck all the money out of the government, all of it. The people end up destitute, at least in poverty, really. The teachers, poverty wages, truly. And they walk away with bags full of cash and declare victory. Really, they do. Really, they do. And that's kind of what this is. And the Doge bags, the Elons and the Ramaswamis and the votes, that's where they're doing it.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence, that are independent from the president.
Vought has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories, arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration. Right. We put out, for instance, a 50-page paper designed for lawyers to know that the president has, the ability both along the border and elsewhere to maintain law and order with the military, and that's something that it's going to be important for him to remember and his lawyers to affirm. But we've given them the case for that.
With loyalists installed in key government agencies and armed with his playbook, Vought believes a radical Christian nationalist agenda can be realized under a second Trump presidency. For example, on abortion.
So I think the president's actually come up with a strategy that works so long as you are giving people like me in the government the ability to block funding for Planned Parenthood, block funding for fetal tissue research. But what I've told people is he had the most pro-life record ever. I've never seen him take it to stand in the way of a pro-life initiative that actually was real, politically and with momentum.
These people are trying to bring fascism here to the United States of America and enrich themselves while doing it. And that is the name of the game. That is what Project 2025 was all about. It's what it is all about. And the authors of various chapters of Project 2025 are now nominated to take key positions in the American government. And when you understand, the nature of all these people, and that their nature is to be sex pests at the very least, pedophiles at the worst, guys who prey on 12 and 13-year-old boys. Their predilections are so grotesque. And for Donald Trump, he's an adjudicated rapist. They're all birds of a feather, and they F something together, okay, is what they, I'm sorry, everything with them is, it's all about the penis. Even their hatred for trans people is all about the penis. Everything is about the penis. Everything has to do with the penis. They're all bonded around the penis. I'm so sick of government that's run by dicks for dicks. Because it's about dicks. I'm so sick of it. I'm so tired of it. And we were this close to having a woman president, this close, 236,000 votes in 3 swing states. If they would swing the other way, we would have been like, celebrating progress and freedom and, moving forward and getting past all this. But oh no. Oh no. And I'm telling you, this is why when you look at guys like Mike Johnson, right, you're a man of God. You're a man of family. Why do you put up with these sex pests? Why do you, sacrifice at the altar of, Pete Hegseth? And why are you sacrificing at the altar of Matt Gaetz? Why are you sacrificing the altar of Donald Trump, who has 5 children by 3 different baby mamas? Okay, what is this about for you? He won't tell you, but it's about Christian nationalism. And they will tolerate any rapey behavior. They will tolerate Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth and Robert Kennedy Jr. They will tolerate all of this raping, all of this pillaging in the name of Christian nationalism. Seriously. They think they're this close to fascism. Tim Burchett, he's another one. Tim Burchett, the folksy guy from Tennessee. He always seems like, I'm just, living my Bible-driven life. I mean, I'm not trying to upset anybody here, but got to say, Christian nationalism, truly. Sean Duffy is from the real world, and Dancing with the Stars. He has no experience in anything at all. And he's been nominated by Donald Trump. You know what? I was just like, it's designed to make us fail. It's designed to make us Argentina. You know how they said, let's make America Florida again? Oh, they've downshifted way past Florida. They're now down in South America, making America Argentina is what it is. And if you don't understand it, last Thursday, the Argentinian president, Javier Milei, who speaks like, very tortured English. He's not, a very, let's say, educated person, because, people who are educated in, international schools and stuff, they all speak English, okay? They just do. Like, if you go to Poland, I want to go to Poland. Before you can't go to Poland, because, Poland is, in the sights of one Vlad. And, and it's the same thing with him, with Vlad in the church, right? He's a Russian Orthodox person, right? And before him, there was no religion. There was no, because it was communist, and there was no religion at all. And same thing with, President Xi, no religion. Communist China, no religion. Their religion is stamping out religion. Anyway, Javier Milei went down to Magalocco, and he addressed and glad-handed the crowd there at Donald Trump's private club. He was the first foreign leader to meet with President Donald Trump following the election, right? Last time it was the Saudis. How'd that work out for us? Did that work out well? I don't know. Yeah, no. But he actually went to the gala at his club at Magaloco and started preaching the benefits of anarcho-capitalism, anarchists' capitalism. And, he said, when he said he had advice for Elon, first he thanked Elon. He thanked Elon for being anti-propaganda. I really, it's kind of bizarre. I'll play it for you. I mean, if you're watching it on TV, it's fine because it has subtitles. But if you're listening to it on a radio, I'll translate it. It's not very long, but I'll translate it after it's over. Okay.
Hay una mayoría silenciosa, o más bien silenciada, que ha comenzado a hacerse escuchar. A pesar de los enemigos de la libertad, se aferran al poder haciendo uso y abuso de la propaganda, la tergiversación y la censura. Y es por eso que quiero agradecer muy particularmente al gran Elon Musk por su trabajo enorme en X que ha salvado a la humanidad. Lo que ocurrió en Argentina primero y en estas elecciones en Estados Unidos ahora es una prueba cabal de ello. Porque en todo el mundo se están formando dos grandes posiciones antagónicas. Quienes están avergonzados de los valores de Occidente contra quienes estamos orgullosos de ellos. El partido del Estado contra el partido de los ciudadanos libres. El partido de la regulación contra el partido de la libertad.
Okay, in the name of, his ridiculous party, parties of freedom and parties of the citizen, he took all their money. He took everybody's money. He literally cut the government with a chainsaw. This was his, appeal to the people of Argentina. He was going to lower. They had hyperinflation, okay? They had what Germany had. We never had that. Yes, it got a little pricey during the avian flu epidemic for eggs, which nobody ever wants to tell you about. The reason why eggs went up to $9, which they did, and it was frightening, was because there was an avian flu outbreak, number one. And number two, after it was over, they needed to make up their profits, the egg people, the eggheads did. And so they charged us, and they're still charging us. Sometimes you could see eggs for $5, and sometimes you can see eggs for less than $3. Okay? Anyway, this guy here is talking about what Ronald Reagan used to talk about, a silent majority who are, advocating for the citizens. And there are people out there who are enemies of freedom, and they're propagandists, and they're trying to turn people away from his, version of freedom. And he thanks Elon Musk for beating back the enemies of freedom, for beating back the propagandists. Seriously. Why does he know Elon Musk? Why does he know him so well? Because they've been experimenting, the Dogebags have, in Argentina.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening it the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers and drug dealers and violent offenders. What do you need 7,000 people there for? Same thing with DOJ. What are all these people doing here? Looking for their next government promotion, looking for their next fancy government title, looking for their parachute out of government. So while you're bringing in the right people, you also have to shrink government.
That's Kash Patel. He wants to be the FBI director. Isn't that defunding the police? Why is it when Kash Patel says that he wants to shut down the FBI, especially the counterintelligence portion of the FBI, which, monitors hate crimes, the civil rights section actually monitors hate crimes, but they monitor, cyber attacks and Russian intrusions and, Chinese intrusions into the energy grid, stuff that we actually need, people on that wall exposing so that they can prevent us from, going dark or having fentanyl just come on. Anyway, isn't that defunding the police what he's talking about there? Yeah, he wants to break that. He wants to break the FBI. Trump, of course.
One other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children because they'll do a much better job of it. You can't do worse.
Watch, they could do worse. It's an amazing thing. So, and when you listen to the president of Argentina talk about exactly that he defunded education to the point where teachers in Argentina, I can't speak right now, all day today, but teachers in Argentina make less than poverty wages now. Yep. And he literally destroyed the entire government. He slashed all the federal spending. But how did he do it? How did he do it? How did his parliament go along with it? How did he? Oh, that's right. They gave him emergency powers. The Congress or the parliament in Argentina gave the president emergency powers. And by giving him emergency powers, he doesn't have to go through Congress. Now, people are going to tell you, oh, well, you can't abolish, the Department of Education. You can't abolish the FBI. These are things that were created by Congress. They're funded by Congress. You have to go through Congress unless we do the Enabling Act, right, which is exactly what you think it is. It is something that dates back to the fascists of yesteryear. Let's go to, the pressure of a country, Germany, and a leader, Hitler, who actually went to his parliament and was given emergency powers known as the Enabling Act, which meant he didn't have to go through his parliament anymore. He could do whatever he wanted to do. They were out of it. They didn't appropriate money. They didn't, make any new agencies. They didn't control any of the agencies. The agencies in Germany were no longer independent agencies. The police reported to him. The camps were set up to put anybody who resisted him in his government. That's what the camps were originally set up to do, to take people out of government and put them someplace so that they couldn't interrupt his march to being a Führer, right? Same thing's happening in Argentina. So Milei actually went to his parliament and said, listen, just give me the authority to do what I need to do, what I want to do, and I promise you I can tamp down inflation. They had hyperinflation. Guess who else had hyperinflation? Guess. That's right, Germany. See the parallels here? Yes, where the Deutschmark was worthless. You needed a wheelbarrow full of Deutschmarks to buy a loaf of bread. Same thing was happening in Argentina. Yeah, same thing. So that it was 255% inflation. Now, here in the United States, we experienced close to 20% inflation. It was horrendous. But it was because of a pandemic. It wasn't because of policy. It wasn't because of spending. It was because we were shut down, our supply chains broke, and we were sending money to people to try and get them through it. Companies decided that they understood that people had some cash, and they raised prices like maniacs. Corporate greed. That's what did 20% to us. We're now down to 2%. Milei is down to 25% inflation, which is what we were screaming about. And how did he do it? He defunded the government. He literally defunded his government. He did really strange things. He deregulated air travel, which is what we're doing. We're going to do it here. When you tell me that Sean Duffy is going to be the transportation secretary, this man has no experience in air travel. This man has no experience in roads and bridges and tunnels and infrastructure. He has no experience in even filling a pothole. The guy literally came from the MTV reality TV series Real World, where he was despised by all of the people who lived in the house. Truly despised. Anyway, perfect. He slashed public universities, Milei did. He cut the university budgets by 30%. That's exactly what Linda McMahon is going to do. Because the big thing about the Department of Education, it isn't K through 12, okay? They do actually financially support K through 12 with a 14%, gift, let's say, from the feds for local K through 12 education. That is the extent of it. But they have a lot of say over universities. They have a lot of say over, universities that want to teach history, universities that want to, right? He did it too. He cut university spending by 30%, cut their budgets by 30%. This is what's going to happen here. And you know what the result is there? When his Congress gave him the ability to do all these crazy things? It's called shock therapy, okay? There's books about it. There really are. It's been done before. It's been done in Germany. It's been done in Argentina. Before that, it was done in Chile. Over the past 6 months. He's been president in Argentina for almost a year. In that year, the poverty rate has skyrocketed in Argentina. Literally, it was bad to begin with, okay? It was 40% to begin with. Inflation was out of control in Argentina, and that was also a result of, criminal activity. It was the result of, people stealing from the government, But now he has increased the people living in poverty in Argentina by 20%. So now instead of 40%, you have 60% of the population of Argentina living in poverty. You have 11% living in destitution, absolute destitution, meaning without homes, without food, without access to clean water or medical care. 11% of the population of Argentina, mostly because of the slash and spending cuts that could keep them out of destitution, could keep roofs over their heads,
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. I do not believe any of what my Republican friends are talking about on the floor today is in line with what the American people voted for. They voted for cheaper groceries, not whatever the hell this stuff is. They are asking us to vote for a bill, my Republican friends, that would give the incoming administration the ability to revoke the nonprofit status of any advocacy group they want, just by labeling them as a terrorist sympathizer. A bill that would give President-elect Trump a new power to just unilaterally accuse an American group of terrorism and then shut them down. Again, no guardrails for an administration that says it will go after the enemy within. Just a bill that gives them power to do that on day one. And meanwhile, every decision that has been made by this incoming administration so far has not been about the American people. It has been about them. I'm reading in the newspaper again this morning that they want to issue blank pardons to those who committed crimes on January 6th. Republicans call them political prisoners. I mean, these are people who were arrested, indicted, tried, and convicted by juries and judges in courtrooms across this country for violently attacking our brave law enforcement officers. People who smashed cops in the heads with metal barricades, who jammed them indoors until blood was coming out of their mouths. And the incoming administration is thinking about pardoning them? Let that sink in, everybody. Let that sink in. And before I'm accused of harping on January 6th, I'm not the one bringing it up. The incoming president-elect is. He won't shut up about it.
So that's, House Member Jim McGovern from Massachusetts, right? And they were debating a couple of days ago this bill that would allow for the defunding, not just of, we were talking about the defunding of everything in the government, everything, really. Department of Education, the FBI, CIA, putting Tulsi Gabbard in charge of the Department of National Intelligence, which oversees all the intelligence agencies, right? The Congressional Budget Office, the GAO, which scores bills and says whether or not they're paid for or what they would add to the deficit, etc. And so, like Donald Trump's tax proposal, $4 trillion added to the deficit. Seriously. But this particular bill actually gives a new power to the president, which is what we were just talking about, how Congress can hand off its power to Donald Trump. Now, real fascist dictators, real authoritarians know that that's what has to happen. That whoever has the power of the purse has to transfer that power to them. Whoever has the power to regulate has to transfer that power to them. Whoever has the power to fire civil servants, they have to transfer the power to the president, to the leader, so that the leader's decisions are never trifled with. They are never questioned. There is no avenue to question them. There's no legitimate authority to question them, and that agencies are no longer independent. They answer to the dear leader. That's how it happens. That's what it looks like. The Enabling Act, okay? That particular piece of legislation, it seems like a small thing. This is giving a new power to the president incoming, whereby the president can defund any nonprofit organization, like universities, like the ACLU, like the NAACP, like the AFL-CIO, like NPR, like PBS, like Pacifica, like the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, any not-for-profit media organization, any not-for-profit civil rights organization, yes, all of them can be declared by a single person now, the President of the United States, as being either a terrorist organization with no due process, meaning no questions asked, ever, or a terrorist sympathizer. Like, let's say you were at a university this year and you were advocating for Palestinian, a horror show that featured Palestinians at the end of their existence. And you were against that. Whether you understood anything more about it, but you just felt that what you were seeing was something you needed to protest. That it looked to you like war crimes, or it looked to you like starvation as a tool of war, or it looked to you like, civilians were being attacked, a civilian population was being attacked, or hospitals, which are, supposed to be, preserved by the Red Cross or the Red Crescent, depending on what part of the world you're in, which also is a not-for-profit. You know what I'm saying? If you protested that, you can now be labeled a terrorist, an actual terrorist, or if not a terrorist yourself, a terrorist sympathizer. Anybody that reported on this situation can now be labeled a terrorist sympathizer. Any network that allowed for the reporting of something like that could now be labeled a terrorist sympathizing network, and their not-for-profit status can be taken away. If the ACLU or the NAACP actually advocated for, Black Lives Matter and their right to protest, and going forward, anybody's right to protest, and the President of the United States declares those protesters to be terrorists or terrorist sympathizers, then the NAACP or the ACLU or any group that actually protects civil liberties like freedom to assemble and freedom to have your government redress your grievances, protest, can be labeled terrorist organizations or terrorist sympathizing organizations, and they can lose their tax-exempt status. Planned Parenthood can lose its tax-exempt status if the president declares that Planned Parenthood is a murderous organization and that they are committing acts of terrorism, and they can revoke their not-for-profit status. One man, no redress, no due process, nothing. The Treasury Department, and that's why it matters who he nominates as Treasury Secretary, can actually use the IRS as a weapon against people with whom the president disagrees, and can take away their not-for-profit status. The last time that bill was introduced a couple of weeks ago, it failed. It failed because it was fast-tracked, okay? And it required a two-thirds majority in order to pass. It was brought up again today in regular business, regular order, which means it only needed just a majority, just one more vote for than against, a majority. And I need to tell you, it passed. It just passed. It passed the House. It has to go to the Senate.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
The Lincoln Project salutes Vice President Donald Trump. As Vice President, Trump will finally have the time to do the things that make him happiest. Talk about old movies, playing on his phone, admiring the assets of other men. Meanwhile, President Musk can get down to the business of running the country. We at the Lincoln Project are confident that Donald Trump understands his position. Elon is smarter, wealthier, more charismatic.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Or not. Very quiet today.
I think the key thing for us now as Democrats is to get ready for an absolute tsunami of corruption coming out of this new administration. We know that Trump is corrupt. It's his nature. It's his character. We know the Republican Party is corrupt about climate change. They were bought by the fossil fuel industry a decade ago. We know that they've corrupted the United States Supreme Court. And we know that when you let the billionaires near power, they plunder the place with tax cuts for themselves and licenses to pollute. So we know what's coming. And I think right now, the important thing is to look forward, be ready for that, point it out, and not let them get away with it.
Yeah, I agree with them. Sheldon Whitehouse is, exactly right. Get ready for corruption. Be forewarned that it is coming. Understand that we just gave a new power. Well, we didn't give it. That the House just voted for a new power to be given to the President of the United States of America. It has to go to the Senate now. Now, it's interesting because this bill has two separate parts. The first part is the part that I told you about where not-for-profits that, the president who likes to talk about the enemy within, the president incoming who likes to talk about the media is the enemy of the people, now has the power to take away the not-for-profit status enjoyed by public broadcasting, the Voice of America, by PBS, by Pacifica, by a whole lot of not-for-profits, by people who actually work very hard to make sure that Americans have their civil liberties respected, like the ACLU, the NAACP, the UAW, for God's sake. Yeah, the United Auto Workers Union. It's pretty freaking amazing how easily that was voted for along party lines. I will say 15 Democrats voted with the Republicans to give a new power to the incoming president who considers media to be the enemy of the people. I find that fascinating. But it does have to go to the Senate. Now, the second part of this bill is a part of this bill that is uncontested by anybody. This second part of the bill has already passed the Senate. So if its intention was to do what the second part of the bill wants to do, all they would have to do in the House is pass the already passed portion of this bill that passed the Senate. That bill says that if you are being held hostage by a foreign government, I know this affects every American going to the supermarket. I mean, this is just a major issue that people just can't sleep at night. Why? I'm waking up with anxiety, saying to myself, what if I'm captured by a foreign government and it's tax time? Swear to God. And I can't pay my taxes because I'm being held in a Russian gulag in Siberia. That part of the bill actually passed the Senate without anybody pushing back or saying, no, they should pay their taxes in the Russian gulag in Siberia, no matter what. And so they attached that to the defunding of not-for-profits. And so now it's got this really, really long name. Quote, it's called the Stop Terror Financing, that's the not-for-profit portion, and Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act. The stop the tax penalties, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay your taxes. It just means they can't assess penalties while you're in the gulag. Once you're free, like Paul Whelan, my God, he must have a hell of a tax bill that he has to pay. I mean, the penalties are set aside because, he was in a Russian gulag, in Siberia. But he still owes whatever he owes for the last year he worked here if he didn't file those taxes. Okay, so they paired those two ideas together so that they could call it the Stop Terror Financing and Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act. Sounds like it's one thought, but it's really two. It's really two. And the first part was meant to defund and to revoke not-for-profit status from not-for-profit outfits that do really important work inside the United States. Now, what's fascinating to me is they say that they want to, defund the government because the government, like the FBI, has a civil rights division. And the civil rights division is making sure that people don't get away with things like George Floyd's murder, right? And assessing civil fines and civil penalties for hate crimes or deciding what is and what isn't a hate crime. Well, they want to dismantle that. That's what Kash Patel is saying in that clip that I played you a couple of minutes ago, right? I want to defund the FBI, the parts of the FBI that I don't like. They're cops. Let them go out on the street. Let them not enforce civil rights violations or violators. Let them not go out there and enforce, investigations into, child sex trafficking rings, especially when we are who we are. Let's defund that, which to me sounds like defund the police. Just saying. But if they're so against the government having civil rights divisions on the taxpayer dime, even though the civil rights of the taxpayers who they would be protecting inside the FBI and other outfits inside the United States, then you have the not-for-profits doing that work. Why do they want to dismantle the not-for-profits also who are doing that work? Oh, that's right. You shouldn't have any civil liberties. You shouldn't have any inalienable rights. You shouldn't have a constitution. You shouldn't have enforcement of the First Amendment. Only the Second. But then they may get dicey about that too and decide who can and can't. But they are completely 100% in the tank for actual terrorists. That's why it was top of mind for Jim McGovern when he was doing his floor speech to bring up January 6th. Now, he didn't want to wander in there and say that, but the connection between the defunding of organizations and media organizations that do investigative journalism, that find out about pedophile sex rings, that find out about people who violate other people's civil rights, that find out about white Christian nationalism, that has to be defunded. So then you're left with the not-for-profits who do that work. We'll defund them too, and then we're free to do what we want with the children. We're free to do what we want with the 17-year-olds. We're free to do what we want with women. We're free to rape and pillage and all that. Just give all the powers to the president. And that's what they're proposing. And this is like a test case. And this one is dangerous too. I do believe it will die over in the Senate where it has to go now. But they could bring it up in January with the new Senate. They can bring it up in January where Kamala Harris is no longer the tiebreaker in a very tight Senate, but where J.D. Vance might have to break a tie, even though they have a 53-seat majority now instead of, 50, where it was, ties were broken by the vice president. So now they'll have 53 seats. It could actually occur. It could actually happen. Although, unless they do away with the filibuster, which, hey, count on that happening too. And then everybody in this audience is going to call me and ask me to explain why Democrats didn't do it when we needed to do it, but that Republicans had no problem doing it. I can't, please do not make me explain, because Republicans are going to find the filibuster inconvenient. Now, that's assuming that we have an active Congress. Active, not act of. Although we could have both. an act of Congress where they say, we're enabling the president to do what he wants. The Enabling Act. We're going to give him the power of the purse. We're going to let him take $1 trillion defense budget and distribute it the way he wants to distribute it. We're going to let him take the Medicare and the Medicaid trust fund, and we're going to let him spend it the way he wants to spend it. We're going to take the Social Security trust fund and let him spend it the way he wants to spend it. That is basically what the Enabling Act would be for here in this country, because there's big amounts of cash. We don't have a financial meltdown here. We don't have 225% inflation. We don't have hyperinflation. We don't have an economic, situation here in the United States. In fact, our economy is the envy of the world. Now, Donald Trump's going to take credit for that. He is, which is very sickening, because his sycophants, his peeps, his red state voters, his, hinterland voter, they're all going to say the same economy that they say sucks now, they're all going to say it's great. And then he's going to steal from them. The largest beneficiaries of the Medicaid trust fund live in red states. And that's the first thing they're going to go after is Medicaid. Before Medicare and Social Security, they'll go after Medicaid. First, they went after the media, and they gave him a new power to declare me a terrorist threat. Okay? Now Medicaid. Yep.